Hello there, everybody. Happy hump day, as we used to say so often. Taping this really early Wednesday morning, June the 4th. And if you are not familiar with me, first, welcome to the channel, my regular folk. I thank you so much for being here. This is turned into, or is turning into, a really great platform, community based, and that was always part of my objective in doing the channel. I love that you all interact with one another, and this is a place where you can express your opinions respectfully. It's all about tolerance and all that. So I love your vibe. I'm glad you love my vibe. Let's keep it going. If you're new to the channel, just landed here, I'm a Fefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. Clearly I'm a tarot and oracle reader, and I'm also a former newspaper journalist. So I try to keep it real and stick to at least as many facts as are being revealed. And that's why we go to spirit, to try and get deeper, a deeper understanding and insight into what the heck is going on, right? Finally, I'll share with you, if you're not familiar with me, that I am also an initiated priestess in both Wiccan and African traditions. So got a lot on my plate, and I try to use it and do some things here on the channel with you. All right, a couple of things. Wow, what about that recent development with Elon Musk coming out and saying, flipping the bird and going off about the bill? Not surprising though. Spirit has said for quite some time, since the beginning of that so-called bromance between FDT, I call him FDT, fake fraud felon F, right? Okay. Spirit has said from the beginning, and many of us knew, like, that was short-lived. Since when has any alliance with FDT and somebody really, gone the distance or gone past when it seemed expedient? And so the minute that Musk started taking heat for Doge, for so many, all the destruction with the chainsaw, symbolism and all, it was always on a short leash, and spirit was very clear about that. The frustrating thing, of course, with so much of this in the spiritual sense, is timing. Like, how long do we have to wait until exit stage left, please? However, we'll get into it a little bit more later. I don't know if this reading or later. I'll see how spirit leads me. But what I'm getting, and maybe a lot of you as well, is like, Elon wasn't even necessarily the thing. He was the face of the thing. But the thing, the driving force and motivation and actual machinations behind the scene, is Russell Vought. And as we see, now we're starting to see more of him in the spotlight. Project 2025, you know, guy, right? Who FDT knew nothing about. But okay, here's what I want to look at today, though. Ukraine. Zelensky. All right, now, we see you. Interestingly, there is a meeting today, and they are ahead of us here in the United States. So the meeting may have already taken place or is taking place. But NATO, folks are getting together and saying, all right, let's get it together. This defense group with NATO that apparently was formed by Lloyd Austin. Horrible how they treated him. But Hegseth, Pete Hegseth, will not be there. Surprise, surprise. Now, I'm wondering, is that deliberate? Not just because they're trying to, FDT wants to try to continue to appease Putin, but because they were worried about some form of embarrassment. They couldn't trust him to go in there and either follow whatever directives he was given, whatever messaging he was given to convey at the NATO meeting around Ukraine. Like, I am getting that sense, you all. Spirit has also been saying, as they said about Elon, that Hegseth is on a short leash. And as well, like, it's a matter of time. And the fact that he is not attending this NATO meeting in regards to Ukraine, Seven of Swords at the bottom of the deck after I shuffle. All right, so everything ain't as it appears to be regarding that. Let me go a little further. Spirit, why is Hegseth not attending that NATO meeting around the defense of Ukraine? Why? The High Priestess, secrets. Yeah, because remember as well, Spirit is reminding me, this whole thing you know FDT is hot. That and company, right? Because all of this ain't him. It's really the people behind him that they didn't know. Zelensky made his moves. All of this happened without somebody getting on the phone and saying, hey, this is what we're about to do, right? Zelensky's no fool. Come on. Nobody's forgotten that Oval Office visit and all of the things. So that's what it is. There's a lot of distrust at this point. And the fact is that, the White House, this administration has backed itself into that corner, which is going to lead me to my second part of today's reading, you all. I think Five Eyes is in trouble, but we'll get there in a second. All right, Six of Swords. He thinks that, or the administration thinks that Hegseth can come in on the back end of this, that they wield so much influence, he can come in on the back end of this NATO meeting regarding Ukraine and still have a voice. Just missteps. Spirit, what else around Hegseth? And I got my Ace of Swords. If you're with me, if you know when I read as a reader, aces for me are my confirmation from the spirit guides that I'm on track with what I'm saying to you. So yeah, they are just arrogant enough to think that basically Hegseth not going to this meeting doesn't mean that they still, U.S. is not still top dog in charge and still will have the largest voice when they show up. Six of Swords. Spirit, was there concern in the administration around Hegseth's ability to perform, ability to stay on message and not embarrass them? We have the Death card. Now that's scorpionic energy, and that's also about the truth of the matter. I feel like they were like, stop him, like no, we don't trust him. And King of Pentacles, that's him, that's Hegseth. We don't trust him. And the Page of Cups, because of his inefficiency, his ineptitude, for entertainment purposes only, gotta say it, his ineptitude, his folly is the word that Spirit just gave me, his folly. Yeah, so there was a put a stop to it before it could even get started, before he could go there and say or do something that would not be at all representative of FDT's plans. And the Four of Cups. Hegseth, this is his attitude. He recognizes the slight. He knows that they don't trust him. He knows that he's not respected, not within his ranks. And there's a King of Swords. That's FDT. Nah, that might be. I don't know. That might be somebody in his, like a senior advisor. I'm not sure who that is. But that's somebody who was involved. Oh, you know what? This could even be Zelensky. This was the idea. And Temperance is coming. This is the mix of the leaders, NATO leaders, that are going to be having these conversations, right? To try and, continue to come up with a plan to continue to support Ukraine. And this is someone very instrumental. I almost feel like this is an emissary of Zelensky or Zelensky himself. But this is emerging leadership outside of the U.S. that is bigger than Hegseth. That basically there's nothing that Hegseth would have been able. There's no influence, real influence, that he would have been able to have in that group, because that group is already starting to parse off and form. NATO is already making moves that are not as reliant on the U.S. or on the U.S.'s positions or voice. Okay, not trying to diss it, can't get there yet, but that's the bottom line. It was like, he's not, from the administration's perspective, he's not, we can't trust him to go in there and do a damn thing. And from NATO's perspective, they're like, we don't care whether he showed up or not. This is what we are about to do. such an interesting turn, especially when you think about historically the role of the United States in NATO and world events like this. Okay, so that said, second part of the reading that the guides gave me today to talk about and look at is Five Eyes. US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, right? This incredible, powerful unit that has shared intelligence, that has relied upon one another to share intelligence. And again, going back to Ukraine's recent moves against Russia in that war, and the fact that the US was not given a heads up, the fact that you've got Canada and Ukraine, Mark Carney in Canada, Keir Starmer in the UK. Both of them have been talking a lot about shoring up their own defense capabilities, right? Their own military capabilities, so there's less reliance on the US. But I just get the sense, Spirit is that, the guys are saying, we're going to see more of that in terms of the U.S. being left out of, or being very, very strategic about what they feed the U.S. because they are not trusted. They don't trust this administration, and duh, right? All right, Spirit. Are the other nations involved in what we call the Five Eyes intelligence community? Is that basically? Is the U.S. being left out, or will it be sort of edged out? Are we at that point of not sharing intelligence with the U.S.? We have the Two of Swords. There's definite conflict about it at the bottom of the deck after I shuffled. There's a lot of so it's not being necessarily pulled. The U.S. is not clearly being pushed out of Five Eyes by any means, because they still, the flip side of that is they do still rely on intelligence from the U.S., at least from those still reputable and reliable sources within the U.S. I had to throw that in. All right. And Seven of Swords, a lot again, right? And you heard me shuffle. A lot of distrust. A lot. Somebody's going to ask me what deck I used today, and it's the Astro Matrix Tarot. Okay? Spirit. Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand. Five Eyes. Will it continue to exist? I do have the Ace of Cups. I like that because we do need, we need to share intelligence. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So I feel like the Ace of Cups is here to confirm that while there is a conflict and distrust, it's still going to hold. The Emperor. Here comes FDT. What's he saying to them or going to do with them with the Ten of Pentacles? All right. So once again, he's trying to wield financial influence and support to try and maintain those relationships. Try and maintain the U.S. in the position within Five Eyes to maintain that. As we're all still in this together. It all still makes sense. And just as I said, we're in this together. I pulled that Three of Pentacles, a card of collaboration, a card of working together and building. We can all do more together than we can on our own. So the bottom line, Spirit is saying, for all of the foolishness and for all of the arrogance and the bravado and ego and all of that, there is a recognition that to lose these connections with these other nations that is crucial is too far. And he's going to go in there, and I don't know whether this is trying to sway with financial offerings or some sort of, because Pentacles are solid, stable, some sort of, we still have your back, we're still here for you. I heard I read this morning that even in terms of the steel tariffs, that FDT has said it won't apply to the UK. And we know that Starmer, he came, bent the knee at the White House, but they've been, UK. There's been some genuine, interesting dynamics in trying to maintain that sort of, equilibrium between the two countries. We have the Four of Cups that comes again. Still that distrust and knowing that even as the Five Eyes Alliance may hold, how much value is in terms of actual intelligence, how much value will these other nations, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and UK, how much value will they get in return for their loyalty from us at this point? Am I right about that, Spirit? Yes, justice. Okay. So, bottom line, they're going to hold, but man, has that dynamic shifted, and the idea that the real sense, that Three of Pentacles, the real sense of collaboration, we're in this together, we have each other's back, that has really been frayed at the edges. All right. And so the final thing I want to look at today, we're going to keep this one short, you all. Some of you are not going to like me for this, but Hakeem Jeffries. So with everything going on, last taping, I think we talked about Coach Walls coming out and saying, no, we got to put our dukes up. If this is how we're going to do it, let's do it. In terms of the Democrats really finding their voice and figuring out a different way to not be so take the high road approach, or just constantly pointing out, what's wrong with the administration versus really, really taking a different tact. So we know Dems, that the party in general is having an identity crisis. We'll be looking certainly more and more at that in our political readings going into 2026 midterms. But in the meantime, we have, what's his name? Natler. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But his aide, we've heard about it, was detained by ICE. And there's a lot of hoopla around that, like, whoa. And there's going to be more around that because of Stephen Miller, as you've heard, hooping and hollering and screaming and threatening to fire people if they don't do a minimum of 3,000 arrests a day and put people in detention a day. He's talking about, why aren't you going to Home Depot and 7-Eleven is a couple of things that I read. Literally tell me, go to Home Depot and 7-Eleven. And anybody that doesn't look American, just grab them off the street, right? Okay. So Hakeem Jeffries made the rounds in media, like, what do you have to say about this? Like, what do you have to say? DNC has the bright idea to send a taco truck to the RNC headquarters, if I'm not mistaken. All right, we get it. We all been doing the taco thing. I just, we get it. But, like, was that the move? Was that the move at this time? Did that really sway some people's minds? Did that really capture voters? What did that do? And when Hakeem Jeffries was making the rounds on media to, talk about that and as the second in charge in the House, like, what do you have to say, dude? And he said nothing. He said it was a riddle. This and so he's under a lot of fire for that because people are starting to, the respect that he has, the idea that, people have been saying he will be Speaker of the House in 2026 midterms. They go the way we want, that he would, is he? We will meet the moment, he keeps saying. We will meet the moment. Moment is here, and we still waiting on you to make it to the meeting, sir. I know some of you not going to like that. I'm sorry. Let's see. Hakeem Jeffries. The Empress. So he's still under the influence. Spirit has been saying this forever. He's still under the influence of Nancy Pelosi. Remember, she is still there. All right, still there and still moving, bobbing and weaving. And he's still under her influence. There's something about the way he was indoctrinated is the word I'm getting. The way he was indoctrinated into how this works in Congress. And that's not the moment. There's the Page of Cups, a new time, a new era, a new voice. And I also wonder, Spirit, is this someone who's going to challenge Hakeem Jeffries? Is his position going to be challenged? Ten of Cups. Ooh, a lot of challengers. A lot of challengers. I don't know how that works exactly, but he's a Knight of Swords. This is him continuing to echo, is the word that I just got. He's echoing what he's hearing from Nancy and other more traditional members of Congress. And there's the Hierophant. Absolutely. Tradition. You don't get any more traditional than the Hierophant in tarot, right? He just doesn't. He thinks that he is responsible for upholding, and he has inherited a certain tradition of how to run Congress and how to speak as a leader, as a congressional leader. And he's missing the mark. You all will, you all, I'm so sorry. I'm like you all, but when I go to Spirit, it's a different vibe. Spirit, I'm sorry for that. All respect, always. All respect and humility, always. Is Hakeem Jeffries in trouble? Or will he be in trouble if he continues down this path? Here comes the Queen of Cups. There's somebody's going to start saying something. And it feels like a woman who's going to challenge him. And there's the Knight of Pentacles. It'll be slow. They don't want to disrespect him. On many levels, he is still, he's well-liked, you know. He's well-liked because he's not a fighter and he's not been contentious that way. Well-liked, and here comes the Lover's card. He still has quite a base of support, but we got to remember as well, thank you, Spirit, that because of the age, overall the age still of Congress, and especially on the Democratic side, we've had those recent deaths and illnesses, etc. So that contingent, you know, the Nancy Pelosi contingent has his back, but there's also I knew it was coming. Three of Wands. How do we move forward and how do we grow? And so this is meeting the moment. Does Jeffries see within himself a need to change? Is he going to have a crisis of conscience? Three of Cups. He's got his eye on the speakership. He's already projecting and seeing himself as speaker after the midterms. Strength. Okay. So he's being very, very strategic. Because depending on that old guard that is still in Congress after the midterms, and the idea that he still needs their backing and their respect and their support, as would be speaker, potentially speaker, if the Dems take over in the midterms. You get it. It's politics. So, it's going to be up to some folks. I don't know who that woman was, that Queen of Cups that we saw. That's definitely not AOC, and that's definitely not Jasmine Crockett. I'm not sure. Klobuchar. No, she's a senator. I don't know who that is, you all, but somebody's going to start to talk, you know, speak in his ear. But his primary concern right now, he is still trying to behave as if he were speaker, because that's where his vision is. All right. I hope that was helpful. I hope it was, you know, I hope it got some food for thought going on in there. Again, I am going to start to take questions. I'll either do a post and say, give me your questions, and then I'll do a recording to answer your actual questions. And feel free to do that now, by the way, if you want to put questions in the chat in response to this video, because I'm going to start to do, just instead of me going to Spirit, and what I'm led to read on, I do want to answer your questions. I'll do that. And probably, you know, as we advance into summer, I'm going to start doing some lives with you all. And you know, we'll chop it up together in the moment, right? Okay, take really good care of yourselves. I always close out with that. Keep your chin up, right? We have to do that. Keep your chin up. Stay strong. Stay confident. Know that this is a moment in time. And just as, going back to the example of Elon Musk, right? Just as it seemed at one time, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, he was just unstoppable. Well, right? Chin up, shoulders back, right? Know who you are, know what your values are, know that you are loved, know that that's what's in control. There's a source energy that we're all tied to that's ultimately in control. And take all of that into your heart, right? And breathe. Because if we ain't breathing, we in trouble. So let's breathe, and breathe confidently, and breathe with caring and compassion for one another, and activity. All right? Keep ourselves active. Be ready to walk the long path, and we'll get there together. All right? Take good care. I'll talk to you real soon. Bye.